All right, guys, welcome back to another video. We have lots to go over today, but before we get into it, make sure to check out the link in the description for my Spotify. If you want the audio version, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new here and you like daily gaming content. And if you've been watching for a while, which I see a lot of you have, I think it's like 45% of the viewers are watching but unsubscribed. Consider hitting that subscribe button to help the channel grow almost at 20K subs. We would love to get there. So let's start off here and let's talk about Spider-Man the Great Web. So Spider-Man the Great Web was one of those games that was leaked during the Insomniac leak, or at least we had heard about it in terms of a Spider-Man multiplayer game. And PlayStation has, as we know over the last couple of weeks and months, canceling games and closing studios and just kind of pivoting and restructuring how they are going to go about game development in the future. Of course, it cost them hundreds of millions of dollars to make games. We saw with Spider-Man 2 was over like 300 million. And that obviously is not sustainable for the PlayStation platform, especially when they are locking games just to the PS5 console. We're seeing that completely switch over as more games are coming to PC. Just got Ghost of Tsushima on top of the other ones that are already on PC. And there is a rumor that The Last of Us 2 Remastered is going to be coming to PC as well. And there potentially is going to be an announcement very soon. Now, Spider-Man, in terms of the actual single player game, a lot of people do love it. I'm a fan of the Spider-Man games. I do think Insomniac is a phenomenal developer in terms of the gameplay that they do put into games. Narratively can be hit and miss. I mean, the Spider-Man is right now one of those games that people are actually focusing on with this whole Sweet Baby Inc. controversy that is going on. And now we're seeing this here with Spider-Man the Great Web, which is apparently the multiplayer game that was canceled. And there's actually now a leaked video going on that was spread across the internet where we got the trailer for the game. And now people are pretty upset that this game was canceled because, to be honest, it looked really damn fun. And myself would have definitely jumped in and tried this game out. So basically, this was supposed to be a 5-person multiplayer game built on a live service foundation. But they say here it was struck down by Sony as revealed by the Insomniac leaks. In the leaked trailer for the Great Web, which looks incredibly polished, we get a glimpse at what the product might have looked like. And in the trailer, this is kind of what the dialogue in the trailer says. It says, "New York City, nothing in the whole world I wouldn't do for this big, beautiful apple. One moment you're scarfing down a slice from Vinny's, the next you're stopping a supervillain prison break. Sometimes you can swing it as a lone wolf, but you're way better off with some friends. I've seen the Sinister Six before, but never so methodical, so savage. I don't think I'm going to be enough this time, guys, but together we just might." So that's the description of the game. Basically, you were going to be going and taking these Spider-Mans from the Spider-Verse and taking out the Sinister Six in New York City. They showed gameplay of boss battles, fighting Venom, swinging around with all of the different characters, and it was just really looked like it was going to be a ton of fun to jump in there with your friends. So it's unfortunate that this one did get canceled, and it's almost like, what is Sony doing canceling this game here, which from that trailer looked like very polished, already in the Spider-Man engine, but obviously did not have to be built all the way from the ground up. This was something within the Spider-Man engine, within the universe that was already there, and I think if they would have released it, it would have done very well. Now, I do have a funny feeling here that it's canceled for now. I feel like this game will be coming out at some time later, but they're going to try to price it and sell it as its own standalone game and get people excited about a new Spider-Man title. Now, obviously, this leak here is going to take away a little bit from that and from the hype itself, as people would have most likely been expecting this as something to be added on to Spider-Man 2. I mean, it looked like just an additional multiplayer online mode, but obviously, PlayStation needs to get out there with some more multiplayer, more games as a service, as other ways to supplement the large development costs for their single player games. And I think this would have done well, especially if they were to release it on PC at the same time. I think a lot of people would have picked it up and played it. Could have been like another Helldivers 2 success. So very confused why they would have gone ahead and canceled this, but I do have a funny feeling that it is going to be making its way out later. Maybe not the same name, maybe not the exact same concept, but something similar here in the Spider-Man universe. And it will probably be something that they do put out on PC at the same time as they do put it onto the PlayStation console. But go check out the trailer. I'm not going to show it here because obviously it's getting flagged everywhere. It looked good. It looked really fun. I would have definitely jumped in and checked it out. All right, jumping over here because we have some new studios opening up, which is going against everything that is happening in the industry. And I think this is a great thing, seeing some new studios open up, getting more people to get jobs within these studios, and hopefully some more IPs that are interesting, creative, and different from everything that is out there. And this one here is a new studio called Empty Vessel that is being formed by veterans from both Naughty Dog and Activision. They put out a press release and a quick kind of teaser trailer as to what this game is going to be. You can see the character that they have in there. It looks very sci-fi. And then they say this in the press release. They say that it will be, it's an unannounced title. It's a shooter built with Unreal Engine 5, and Empty Vessel confirms it will be inspired by film, graphic novels, and games set in a dystopian sci-fi worlds. They say this could involve a wide range of sci-fi staples, so the system doesn't have a clear direction just yet. However, today's press release does note some comparables, titles that Empty Vessel developers previously worked on, and these are titles: Quake, Call of Duty, Last of Us, Borderlands, Tomb Raider, Uncharted, and Callisto Protocol. So, I mean, there are some big games in there, some awesome games in there. And this is very exciting, in my opinion, that you're getting a new studio here from the Naughty Dog people who have some great writers and storytelling, and they obviously had some really great graphics in those games. And you have the Activision people coming over who had some great gameplay, especially in the first-person shooter mechanic. So you put those two together, and I think you're going to get something pretty good here. So excited to see what does come out of this new studio, Empty Vessel. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so, they give us another look into what this game is. In terms of the, I guess, corporate structure of this, Emmanuel Palachich will serve as the CEO and game director. Garrett Young is the COO and general manager. And then the only other confirmed staff include Wei Ning, Alex Palma, and Rico Flores. So all these veterans from the studios that have worked on some major games. Now, the other studio that's opening up here is pretty exciting as well. This one's called Giant Skull, and this is being opened up by Stig Asmussen, who was the Star Wars Jedi director, which is a phenomenal game, so that is pretty cool. And they say here the Giant Skull is working on a AAA single-player focused action adventure. Specifically, their studio is described as new AAA game studio dedicated to building gameplay-driven, story-immersed action-adventure games set in captivating worlds. Studio is based in Los Angeles, but has remote developers from around the world. And as we know, Asmussen left Jedi Fallen Order and a Jedi Survivor studio Respawn last year, and he's going to lead the development of the studio's first game, again, a AAA single-player focused action adventure utilizing Unreal Engine 5. So we'll see what comes out of this. I mean, if you're a fan of the Jedi series, you can kind of see the pedigree there in terms of the third-person action adventure games that they can make, and with this mind behind it, maybe we'll get another game that is great. So nice to see some studios opening up. Nice to see some new ideas that are going to be put out there, some new IPs, and hopefully some great creative games. Now, when it comes to a studio that is having a major change, Starbreeze here is having a major change. The studio behind Payday and Payday 3, which did not do very well. When Payday 3 did launch, there were a bunch of issues with it, and I guess it just never really recovered from it. But Starbreeze, I guess because of this, is now removing their CEO from the company. It says in a notice to investors, the Stockholm headquartered developer said that it needs a different leadership following a difficult period of instability in the wake of Payday 3's launch. And they say here, Jürgen Goldner has been appointed as interim CEO. Goldner joined the board for Starbreeze in 2023, specifically saying the company has a clear strategy centered around creating attractive games on our own and licensed IPs. And the board's consolidated assessment is that the execution of strategy needs a different leadership. Jürgen Goldner has been part of the board since 2023, and with over 40 years of industry experience, they say is a strong interim solution. But there were major issues with this game when it did come out, the matchmaking. And I mean, that was, you want to play with friends when you're jumping into Payday 3. Overall, the game, I just don't think was a huge jump from Payday 2. I believe at even a certain point, Payday 2 still had more players playing that over Payday 3. So overall, just not a very good launch. And this was also a game that did launch into Xbox Game Pass. So we'll see how this helps Starbreeze and going forward, and what the next thing that they're going to be working on putting out there, and if that may be a success. All right, let's talk some Ori and Thomas Mahler and Moon Studios, because as we know, there's always been this discussion about Ori and Xbox and everything. Ori was a phenomenal game, one of my favorite franchises, and it was exclusive to Xbox for a while before they did release it on other platforms than Nintendo Switch. And last week, Thomas Mahler actually made some comments that got people discussing whether he was console warring or not. But I think initially a lot of people looked at it and thought he was console warring, which is not the case, as he did clarify it. And now he mentions that he is going to be working on some future projects with Xbox in the future, or thinks that he will have that opportunity, specifically saying that I didn't have any bad ending. I'm pretty sure we'll still do exciting things with Xbox in the future. We just wanted to ship Wicked on all platforms with cross-play support. And back then that was not possible under Microsoft. I 100% believe in where Phil is heading. So big statement there from Thomas Muller, because No Rest for the Wicked, first of all, does look absolutely incredible. And responding to people asking about Xbox and asking how they can support the developer. Last week, he said, just go buy the game on Steam. The best way to support Ori and developers to buying the game on Steam, and then linked it. And then somebody said, why not on the Xbox store? And his response here was, because then people get it on Game Pass and that doesn't help Moon, which had a bunch of people thinking it was console warring and all of that. And he actually did respond to that later, which I feel like not many people actually talked about or brought up. They just looked at the console war side of things where he wasn't actually console warring. He says here that, oh no, I woke some console warriors with one of my replies. Folks, I never cared what box you have under your TV, and I don't care what side you're on. I agree with Phil that all games should ideally be on all platforms. Imagine we would have had this craziness with films. Oh, you can play this DVD on a Sony DVD player, but this other one only works on some other brand. It would have been madness, and the same is true for Xbox and PlayStation. Here's a little tidbit for you. Under the hood, those boxes are pretty much identical, so who cares? Just let people enjoy good games. And yes, I will happily ban all obnoxious platform warriors that try to use me in these senseless arguments about which brand is cooler. So obviously not console warring here, but he does bring up some good points. He does bring up some good points in this response. And there's two main things here, I would say. First of all, he says he agrees in the direction that Phil and Xbox is heading in. And I think you would be hard pressed to find many developers that actually disagree with the direction Phil is going, mainly because they're developers. They make art and they want as many people to experience their art as possible. And Phil obviously and Xbox obviously are more on getting as many people to play their games on whatever device, whatever screen that they can access them on. And I think this opens up a lot of avenues. You can make deals with Xbox. You can get some exclusive Game Pass deals, subscription deals, but then still have your games everywhere else. Like a lot of that stuff that these developers are probably looking at and thinking of ways that they can work with Xbox, which is just more open and easy than working with platforms that want to close off their art to just a finite amount of people. Obviously, it's at the end of the day, just comes down to the bag that each company will be willing to drop. But then he also mentions here, which is like the whole thing when it comes to the console wars right now, is that I understand that the fun of the console wars, people like getting in arguments, and that's cool. Like you see some content creators out there, they make great console war content and it's entertaining, absolutely. But when you look at the actual boxes themselves, like they're literally the exact same. They just have a different plastic shell, but the specs under the hood are essentially the exact same. Both AMD, slightly different power between them, slightly different frequencies of like the CPU and the SSD and stuff. But besides that, they're the exact same. This isn't like back in the day where you literally had different versions of the games on like the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. So the whole console war things has completely shifted, which has allowed more people to actually jump in and experience these games. And I think you see these companies looking at this and saying, well, it's not really not going to be that much harder to develop this game for the other platform because they are the same and we'll make way more money and reach way more people if we were to put the games there. So it's a completely different era. And Thomas Muller here is just commenting on it. But No Rest for the Wicked does look absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait to actually check out that game, with Ori being one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite series of all time. All right, jumping over here, let's talk about some really interesting tech that is going to be making its way into game development, at least right now on PC going forward. And that is work graphs, DirectX 12 work graphs to be precise. And it's aiming to eliminate CPU bottlenecks by putting the GPU in charge. So it says here, a week ago, Microsoft teased a new update to DirectX 12 for developers that will usher in a new era of performance and efficiency. And yesterday, there were more details that came out about this, specifically work graph. Now, there is a more in-depth explanation here, but it's very technical. So if you want to read that, the link will be in the description. It may not be for everybody, but basically what this thing is going to do is it's going to take tasks away from the CPU and give it to the GPU. It says work graphs aims to reduce the need to use the CPU for task and scheduling and switch to a more robust GPU-driven rendering system, and Workgraphs provide a programming paradigm that enables the GPU to generate work for itself on the fly, which will offer a solution to a lot of problems that these game devs run into when trying to create these games with the CPU bottlenecks, which hurts performance. You see people always talking about this all the time, that this game just doesn't have great FPS because it is very CPU intensive, and that will be hard to get good performance, at least when people are talking about the consoles, and I guess depending on what CPU you have within your PC. But this is something here that potentially could be utilized to kind of get rid of those bottlenecks and ensure more consistent performing games when they are released in the future. My question always with this type of stuff is, because this is Microsoft, this is DirectX 12, is this going to be implemented into Xbox in the future? In the next Xbox, is it going to have all of these new DirectX 12 features into it, which is a huge advantage if they can utilize this stuff and just give cheaper hardware, maybe not the craziest amount of power, but have these tools, which we heard about all throughout the beginning of this generation, have them actually utilize and give just phenomenal performance no matter which games are coming out. So I hope that is the case. I mean, we will obviously wait and see how the next generation works, but I think these tools, these new DirectX 12 tools, are looking pretty cool, and I'm sure we will hear and see a lot more about this at GDC this year, which runs from March 18th to March 22nd. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely keep your eyes open and your ears open for the content that will be coming out there. All right, to end things off, let's talk about Monster Hunter, Capcom, and Xbox. So Capcom had an announcement yesterday where Monster Hunter World became the best-selling Capcom game of all time, selling 25 million units and selling 97 million units overall for the Monster Hunter franchise. Now, Monster Hunter World, obviously very popular, multi-platform, released on Xbox and PlayStation. And one of the things that people are also here talking about is Monster Hunter Stories, which are more niche Monster Hunter games, smaller games that is skipping the Xbox platform. We saw Monster Hunter Stories showed off at the Nintendo Direct, and that was one of the big talking points when it comes to Xbox and putting their games on other platforms. Does this mean that other games are going to skip Xbox because people just don't see no need to put it on a console if they don't have any exclusives? And I don't agree with that sentiment whatsoever, because these companies are looking at the player base, they're looking at how many people they can get access to, and more people are, and with Xbox opening up their ecosystem, more people are actually playing on the Xbox platform than they would have been if they would have kept it close. So I don't think they look at that at all. And we've seen Xbox expand their third-party reach with games like Persona, the Yakuza series, and just many different Japanese games have actually made their way out onto the Xbox consoles. Goes against the narrative that was kind of being pushed after Monster Hunter Stories was skipping Xbox from the Nintendo Direct. I think really this is just a far more niche game, and I think that there is no market for this game on the Xbox platform, and one of the major reasons is because it's probably the major market for it is in Japan. And one way to get people in Japan to be playing on your platform is to put the games where those players are. So that's a completely different discussion. But one of the things we are seeing here that potentially could show why some of these games do skip Xbox is because we have this account here. This is Xbox News for Korean saying, due to PlayStation exclusive deal in the Asian region, Asian Xbox gamers still cannot play Monster Hunter World on Xbox. And this is pretty crazy because Monster Hunter World is on the Xbox platform, but if you have an Xbox in those Japanese regions, or if you have an Xbox in those Asian regions where this exclusive deal takes place, you can't play the game. And this is definitely one of the major reasons and issues I think that games like Monster Hunter Stories skip the Xbox platform, is because they know the vast majority of their audience is going to be picking up and playing these games in those regions where there may be some exclusive deals that they'd have to contend with, and people on Xbox wouldn't even be able to play them. I mean, that's just kind of speculation there on my part, but it's an interesting connection here when you look at how much the game sold and then how people in Asia still can't even play Monster Hunter World on their Xbox. But I will end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.